Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. LSU's got a new head football coach. You will hear from him in an hour and 30 minutes. Lane Kiffin's introductory press conference coming to you from the South Stadium Club in Tiger Stadium at 3:30. I would imagine that will be on time. A lot of football press conferences are not on time. Generally, that's because they follow a practice, and those are never on time. And Lane Kiffin was supposed to have meetings all weekend with Keith Carter, and none of those ever happened on time. But I think he'll be on time today. Matt Moscone will be doing after further review for us at the South Stadium Club as well. He'll crank things up at 3 o'clock. When Lane Kiffin gets to the microphone, you'll hear some of that. And that's all we're talking about here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge today. It's the story of the sports world. And so let's continue. I gave my thoughts on LSU's process to get to this point at the top of my show. I talked about Lane Kiffin and what I think he will do here in Baton Rouge in the second segment of my show. And now we're going to talk about some real-life things that have gone on since he took the job at LSU. He got to Baton Rouge, gave Verge Ausberry a big hug, got in the car, police escort to LSU football ops. And when he got there, Michael Caldwell, WBRZ, was there, and he shot some video. You saw Lamar Brown was there. You saw Braden Allen, who is an Oklahoma-committed wide receiver from Lafayette, who decommitted yesterday and was meeting with LSU's head coach yesterday. That should be a fairly significant indication. You saw Frank Wilson was there. You saw Blake Baker was there. And so you started to see Lane Kiffin actually hitting the ground running here. There's no time to look around for a house or figure out where you're going to get your po' boy from. Like, it's figure some things out, because in this calendar, you understand signing day is now, you can count down the hours until ink can hit the paper from right now where I'm sitting. So that's important. And as we know, like, since Brian Kelly got fired, LSU has had 2 decommitments. Just 2. That's it. Frank Wilson and the staff that's here has done a great job of keeping LSU's class together. Now, keep in mind, staff changes could come in the next couple of days. There could be more defections. I would bet that there will be. I'm not here to give you names. I'm not the recruiting beat guy. But that's just the nature of the beast, right? You get close to signing day, you realize that some position coaches won't be around, especially if Lane Kiffin's bringing some offensive staff. LSU's offensive staff could be shaken up. Like, you don't know. But we know some things that have happened. Lamar Brown met with Lane Kiffin, reaffirmed his commitment to LSU. Richard Anderson, 5-star defensive tackle. Carr said, I'm shutting down my recruitment. I'm signing with LSU. Well, those are the 2 biggest players in LSU's class, both Louisiana kids. Lamar Brown's the number 1 player in the nation. If you look at ESPN, top 5 by Rivals in 24/7. Richard Anderson, number 1 defensive tackle in the country by the 1-3 composite, number 2 by Rivals, top 15 player in the country. Those 2 guys from the state of Louisiana, pretty big draw to come to Baton Rouge to recruit guys like that. They said, we're in. You look at Braden Allen. Braden Allen was a Tulane commitment, was in an Oklahoma commitment, 6'1", 4-star receiver. Everyone's kind of pegging him to flip to LSU. Another Louisiana player. And then you start to look at Ole Miss's class. And the one defection that most people are highlighting to this point is J.C. Anderson. J.C. Anderson is the number 11 tight end in the country, 6'6", 230 pounds. It's a guy that is from Decatur, Illinois, that decommitted. Joe Cox, who's the tight ends coach at Ole Miss, was on the plane with Lane Kiffin. He was in the building yesterday. That's a guy he's got a great relationship with. Feels like that flip could be coming. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the staffing decisions play out, because I don't expect to hear a lot on that front from Lane Kiffin today at the press conference. That's a guess on my part. I don't think he's going to lock a lot of things in that press conference. I think he'll leave doors open for Ole Miss staffers to come here. I think he'll leave doors open for LSU staffers to come here. It just makes sense to do that, right? It makes sense to leave the door open for your Ole Miss staff. There were reports yesterday that, hey, if you don't get on the plane to come with me to Baton Rouge, then you're not coming to Baton Rouge. You won't have a job. Like, there are reports on that. I can't confirm it. There are reports on that. So some guys got on the plane. Joe Cox got on the plane. Charlie Weiss Jr. got on the plane. Now you hear from the Ole Miss side, well, Charlie Weiss might come back to coach the playoff, and maybe he comes back in a full-time capacity. Like, I think a lot of doors are going to be open. I think Lane will leave some doors open for Ole Miss assistants, and I think he will leave doors open for LSU assistants, because the second you sit up there and slam doors on LSU assistants, you may lose some commitments. You may not get some signatures on signing day coming up in 2 days. And I realize that's a little bit playing possum with high school players, but that's the way that this game is generally played, right? There are times where ink dries and then position coaches move on. It happens every year. So I don't think you're going to hear that from Lane Kiffin today. Yeah, this is my offensive coordinator. You could hear a defensive coordinator. He may say Blake Baker is going to be our defensive coordinator here. Like that, because that's been reported by Matt Zenith at CBS, been confirmed by various other folks that cover college football. The thought is that Blake Baker is going to be LSU's defensive coordinator if he doesn't get a head coaching job. We know his alma mater's head coaching job is open. That's Tulane. And we'll see. Here's my thing as an LSU guy, paying attention to the LSU staff and hoping that Blake Baker's LSU's defensive coordinator next year. I want that. I think most people are on that page. He took over the worst statistical defense in LSU history 2 years ago. LSU this year, top 25 defense. I think that you look at what he's done to take it from just absolutely awful to mediocre last year to a good defense this year. They didn't play well in the second half against A&M. They didn't play well against Lane Kiffin. They were on the field too much. But they had a good year defensively, and I would like to see him back. So my hope is, I look at Tulane, I look at what Tulane has had success with. Tulane had success hiring a veteran, longtime head coach, Willie Fritz, come in and help, and he did. And he moved on to Houston. And they went to a sitting head coach, not a veteran, but a sitting head coach in John Summerall from Troy, come do that. So to hire Blake Baker would be to leave that mold. Now, I don't mean to suggest that I don't want Blake Baker's career to flourish, because I like Blake Baker a lot. He's been awesome to me in the short interactions that we've had doing pregame interviews. But you hear the players talk about him. You see the work that he's done. He feels like an important piece to the foundation of this program right now. And it feels like if you were to lose him and you had shakeups that were significant on the defensive staff, that would be difficult, because Lane Kiffin is going to run this offense. He needs help on the defense. When he got to Oxford, that defense was awful. He got Pete Golding to come in, and things got better. And as I've talked about, when it comes to staff situations, when you hire Ed Ogeron and you hire Brian Kelly, you're dependent on coordinators on both sides of the ball. Those guys are not coordinators. They don't have a system that is theirs. They need coordinators. And so Ed Ogeron, when he loses Joe Brady and Steve Ensminger, he doesn't know where to pivot. He goes to Jake Peets. When he had to hire Matt Canada, and that didn't work, it wasn't any good. And then when David Randa left and he couldn't find anybody, so he went to Geronte Jones. Like, both sides of the ball you're trying to juggle. Brian Kelly, same thing here. Well, with Lane Kiffin, you got the offense licked. I want Charlie Weiss to come to LSU because those two guys have worked so well together. Charlie Weiss calls the plays. Lane Kiffin's got a lot of input on the headset. But Lane Kiffin's offense is going to be Lane Kiffin's offense, and he can run that offense. I don't have to worry about that. The defense, he's not going to handle. And Blake Baker's got this LSU defense playing with effort, executing far better, and they played well pretty much all year. So that's a guy you want to keep around, and I think that him keeping that staff around is going to help you keep this recruiting class around, and you've really got a pretty solid foundation really early on in what kind of felt like 3 weeks ago was going to be a massive transition. When I looked at Brian Kelly being fired, and I considered a new coach coming in with a whole new staff, you think about a recruiting class cratering. And you think about having to go hire a staff and maybe missing the transfer portal window and like a lot of things that could happen with as much talent as is leaving this LSU roster, and there is a lot because of how much they spent in the transfer portal this past year, seeing a foundation come together as quickly as this one might is a little bit surprising to me in a very pleasant way. In a very pleasant way. So again, Lane Kiffin speaks in an hour and 15 minutes. I don't think you're going to hear a lot of concrete answers on position coaches and coordinators. If you do, I'll be pleasantly surprised, and we'll report on it, and we'll talk about it. But I think that some doors are going to be left open, but you can start to see some things that are happening with LSU's big-time recruits locking in, with Blake Baker being reported to stick around, what that could mean for the guys that work under him, because he handpicked Kevin Peoples and he handpicked Jake Olson, and we know what Corey Raymond means to that program. All of a sudden, like that side of the ball, which is the question mark under Lane Kiffin, becomes pretty solidified, and you can really push off the dot. That's exciting. A new coach brings a lot of excitement, and that's very, very natural, and this one absolutely should based on the success he had at Ole Miss. But that's just based on the past. This is the actual present moving into the future, and it looks very good from some of the very first things that happened once Lane Kiffin got on the ground here in Baton Rouge. So that's encouraging stuff, and we'll continue to track as recruits decommit, commit. We saw another decommitment from Ole Miss's class, and that certainly doesn't mean that it's an imminent commitment to LSU, but it was a decommitment a little bit earlier from Ole Miss, a 2026 wide receiver, Jamison Powell, who decommitted. Doesn't mean he's headed to LSU, but again, kind of look at, while you're helping yourself, if the other side can crumble a little bit in Oxford, that's a positive for LSU because that's one of the three teams you play every year. We'll see what happens there in Oxford and what players decide to enter the transfer portal after Ole Miss is done and come to LSU. That's something that happens very, very frequently. But they've got some continuity in that coaching staff as well with Pete Golding hanging around. A lot of moving pieces. It's very fascinating stuff, and we'll certainly talk about it all. We'll chat with Denton Day from a national perspective on all this when we come back in 15 minutes. Come back with more LSU Lane Kiffin talk next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Swing Easy, GCBR.com is that website. And go by and see them. If you're a golfer, whether you're a scratch player or you're just picking up the game, it's a great place to go and work on your game. You don't have to play golf for 5 hours at a course somewhere in town. You can play 18 holes on the simulator in an hour and 15 minutes. You don't have to go find a driving range where it might be cold or it might be wet or it might be getting dark after work. You can find a controlled environment where you can hit shots and get real-time feedback on your carry distance, on your ball speed, on your swing speed, where your club face is impacting the ball. They've got a slow-mo video of that. It's a great place to work on your game, again, whether you're a great player or you're picking up the game. So if you're looking for a spot that has a controlled environment, personal simulator setup, also got a couple beers, seltzers, glass of wine if you want it. Swing Easy Golf Club is a great place to go and work on your game. They're on Seagan at Perkins at Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. You can find them online. SwingEasyGCBR.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Chugging along here on this Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Matt Moscona coming up in about 42 minutes with After Further View from the South Stadium Club, where Lane Kiffin will address the media for the first time as LSU's head football coach at 3:30. Interested to see what kind of crowd that draws there and who does show up. I want to give a hat tip to Wilson Alexander over at The Advocate, and did a great job reporting on Lane Kiffin's contract with LSU. He saw a copy of a term sheet. Keep in mind, this contract is not finalized until it is agreed upon and approved by the Board of Supervisors. I checked the Board of Supervisors website earlier today. It appears their next meeting is in 10 days here in Baton Rouge. So we'll get a full copy of that contract to analyze in the coming weeks, 2 weeks probably. Right now, you just have the term sheet, and I will comment on what we know. I want to leave the caveat open here. I want to leave the door open. If there is language in this contract that I'm not aware of right now that changes the way I feel about the contract, I'll say, hey, I didn't have all the information. Now I have some more. I've changed my mind. Here's what I think. But I'm going to react to what I see now with the contract. Keep in mind, My thing on the contract has always been this: football coach, basketball coach, baseball coach, whatever. My thing on the contract is your expectation at LSU does not change based on the amount of dollars you are receiving. If you are the head baseball coach at LSU and you make $900,000 a year or $5 million a year, your expectation is to be a top 8 seed a lot, host regionals and super regionals a lot, get to Omaha a lot, and compete for national championships. I don't care if you make $900K or $5 million. You're the head football coach at LSU. I don't care if you got a $5 million contract or a $13 million contract. You need to be competing to get in the playoff and make noise and compete for championships, period. At basketball, I don't care if you make $1 million or $3.5 million. You need to put yourself in a position to make the NCAA tournament. And if you can get to some second weekends, that's good stuff. You see how those are different. But I don't care. The goal at LSU right now, it's not based on how much you pay. I'm not looking for ROI here. It's not my money. There's an expectation that's been established in this town for those sports. That's what you need to do. So with that said, you look at what happened here in this town last month and what the governor had to say, and I was very curious what the next coach was going to get a contract that said, because the governor was very adamant that he essentially ousted the athletic director because of a contract that, as he termed it, left the state on the hook for $54 million. And he said, we're tired of rewarding failure. We need to have contracts that read differently, that are incentive-based, and we're not going to fall into this pattern that Scott Woodward has put teams into. That's what the governor said. And keep in mind, I don't have a problem with not handing out monster buyouts for people not to coach. Like, I think it's bad if a university has to pay a bunch of money for someone not to work. Ed Ogeron, $17 million. Brian Kelly, $800K a month for 6 years. Like, that's not great. Not good money management. But the fact of the matter is that I've always said, you're in a marketplace, and you're competing with Florida for Lane Kiffin. Like, that's obvious. He sent his family to both places. So this idea that, hey, I don't really like the way that we structured this contract. Hey, Lane, can you come coach us? We'll pay you $500,000 for every win. And if you win the SEC, we'll give you $3 million. If you win the national championship, we'll give you $5 million. Like, come coach for us. Meanwhile, Florida says, hey, we'll give you 7 years, $90 million, 90% buyout like everybody else. Come on. Like, you're going to lose. So it's a reasonable thing to say, I don't want to pay coaches not to work. I agree with that, what the governor said. But I don't agree that that's going to work every time because you're in a marketplace. So I was curious what would happen because the governor very publicly lambasted the athletic director and got him fired based on contractual language. So what's the next coach going to get? Well, we found out today. 7 years, $91 million, $13 million annually. That puts him right below Kirby Smart as the top 2 highest paid coaches in college football. Lane Kiffin, if fired for cause, gets 80% of that buyout, 80% of the rest of the contract of a 7-year deal. And there is no mitigation language in this deal. So the state, as Governor Landry puts it, I don't see it that way, but that is what he puts it, and we'll see what the contract says, still on the hook for a lot of money. Still went and paid $90+ million, more than Auburn paid, more than Arkansas paid, more than Ole Miss paid, more than Florida paid. You're still operating at the top of the sport, literally. And you still got a monster buyout in there. That if Lane Kiffin were to get fired in 3.5 years, like, it's not $50 million, but it's $30. So if you want to tell me that $20 million is what makes this palatable, then, again, it's not my money, so I don't care. I just don't see it that way. I see it as a pretty significant buyout as well. And so it all goes back to the fact that this whole thing that went on in early November didn't sit well with me, and I found it extremely disingenuous. But you got the coach you wanted. And as I said to start the show, as I said back at the beginning of November, and as I'll say now, this is a results thing. It's not a process thing. And I'm not the one that's paying Brian Kelly $54 million. And I'm not the one that paid Ed Orgeron $17 million. And I'm not the one that's on the hook for Lane Kiffin's deal. And if there are boosters who feel a certain way about those contracts, then they absolutely have it within their right to express displeasure and to manipulate the stakes. But as far as where I'm sitting, Joe Fan, where most of you are sitting, Joe Fan, I don't care what the coach makes. If you have the money, go get the best coach. And guess what? LSU's got the money. In December, LSU will cut checks to Ed Orgeron, to Brian Kelly, and to Lane Kiffin. It's the last Orgeron check, so it only happens once. But you're going to pay 3 coaches this month. And if you have the money, I'm not going to complain about it. But this notion that the governor had it nailed and that we're going to have to change the way contracts are written, I think that was disingenuous. And I think that the proof is here. Now, again, to repeat myself, if you think that difference in $20 million is the threshold with which you are comfortable with this contract and the other one was unacceptable, then that's your opinion. And again, it's not my money, so you're free to have that opinion. Just to me, this deal where we're just going to put a bunch of incentives in it and pay a low base salary with no exposure to the school if things don't go well, that just never was going to work in a marketplace. Like, yeah, you could go hire somebody. You could go get the head coach, whoever's coaching Northwestern State, say, hey, man, you want this gig for $2 million a year, no buyout? He'd probably take it. But that's not who you're hiring. You're going to get the number one coach in the coaching carousel. You got to pay up, and LSU did. And once again, LSU needed the money to buy out Ed Orgeron. They did it. They needed the money to pay Brian Kelly, and they did it. They needed the money to buy Brian Kelly's coaching staff out, and they did it on the defensive side. They needed the money to hire a new defensive staff. They did. They needed to find the money to buy Brian Kelly out, and they did. And they needed the money to outbid Florida for Lane Kiffin, and they did. And oh, by the way, they needed the number one portal class last year, and they got it. I'm just not here to cry poor about LSU football and its booster base and its ability to do things at the top of the sport. I'm not here to cry poor. We can sit there and say you'll never keep up with A&M, you'll never keep up with Texas, you'll never keep up with Ohio State financially. This is not on the scoreboard. This is financially. And maybe that's true. There's no evidence of it. The evidence suggests LSU can go get players. The evidence suggests LSU can go get coaches. The evidence suggests LSU can buy coaches out. The evidence suggests that they can build facilities. The evidence suggests LSU can keep up financially. Now, it's Lane Kiffin's job with his new paycheck to go out there and keep up on the scoreboard. And Brian Kelly didn't do enough of that. And Ed Orgeron, after 19, didn't do enough of that. And because they didn't do enough of it on the scoreboard, LSU found the money to move on. And that until that's proven otherwise, that's what I'm going to work off of. That the money's there. It's just about going to win. And now, despite whatever process, whatever contract negotiation, any of that, you've got an athletic director, you've got a football coach, you've got a direction. There's a lot of optimism here. I think it's going to be an exciting time for LSU football. And I think Lane Kiffin's going to win a lot of games at LSU. I think he's going to win a lot of games at LSU. Because when you start to look at these offensive numbers and you start to think about the talent that comes through those turnstiles, comes out of that tunnel, it's an exciting deal for LSU football. Lane Kiffin will meet with the media 1 hour from right now. When we come back, Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. We'll get out of the purple and gold bubble. We went to Oxford a little bit earlier. We'll go national with Denton Day next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
So as I do, have listened to a lot of Ole Miss content in the last 5-6 days. Essentially, the sentiment from Oxford is that Lane Kiffin is a traitor and a snake and a petulant child, and that Pete Golding was the face of the recruiting operation, the backbone of the program, that he's going to galvanize the team, and that the collective is going to keep humming, and that Keith Carter's the best AD, and that they've established themselves as a power program, and that everything's going to be fine. And then down here in Baton Rouge, it's, well, we stole your coach. You're going to go back to being a runt. We're going to win because Lane Kiffin's going to get all the 5 stars now, and it's going to be awesome. Nobody seems to have any gray area. And you've heard from me. You've heard from Oxford. We talked to Michael Katz a little bit earlier. Let's get a national perspective from Denton Day, SiriusXM's college football overtime every single Friday and Saturday in the evenings. Let's talk national, Denton. What's the vibe surrounding this entire situation? I'll leave it open-ended, and then we'll get into more specifics.
I would say there's definitely people that are trying to vilify Lane Kiffin. I'm not necessarily one of them. I love watching great offensive minds do their job, and he is, he's one of the top ones in the sport. I think he didn't handle himself the best of ways. I do not believe that he waited all the way until Saturday or then Sunday to make a decision. I think that decision was made weeks in advance, but I think the overall feeling is that more towards the negative just because of the way that he handled the entire situation.
Yeah, that's what I said. I haven't heard a lot of that in Baton Rouge, but I said, look, when you decided it was going to be LSU, which I don't think was Saturday, you got to leave your keys on the desk, pack the bags, and go. And you it's okay to want to coach the team in the playoff. You built the team, but that's not realistic. You can't let the fox in the hen house. You can't have LSU's coach walking around Ole Miss's facility for a month trying to recruit, and that just can't happen. So he needed to pack it up and leave, and he didn't, and I didn't think he handled that great. How do you think Ole Miss handled it?
I think they handled it the best that they could. I still think they wanted to do what they thought was right, which is not expose their guy in the hope that maybe something would change and they could convince him. So I kind of understand their thought process there. But here's the thing, and this is the unfortunate reality that those in Oxford have to deal with. You're not on the same level as LSU. So when LSU comes a knock-in, the guy's going to go. That's going to happen with every single coach in that position. You're a good team in the SEC, but LSU, in terms of the job, is a great job, not just in the SEC, but in the entire country. So when they come knock-in and you know that he's leaving and you started to feel like he was leaving, you should have just – we talked all about ultimatums, right? There should have been the ultimatum of like, hey, make your decision, and then, like you mentioned, take the keys, get out of here. This is not your house anymore.
How do you think he'll do at LSU?
I think he'll do well because I think he is more interested and more invested in actually winning. We've heard a lot of stories about Brian Kelly. I'm sure you have heard significantly more on and off the record than I have, but it was very clear, at least towards the end of the tenure of Brian Kelly, that he really liked some of the things that LSU provided that were off the field. He likes to golf. He liked to go to the beach, and I can't blame him. I'm not a golfer, but I do like going to the beach. So I would like to go to the beach too more frequently, but I do feel like Lane Kiffin is more invested in winning than Brian Kelly was at LSU. And when you have the kind of resources that LSU has, that's a very positive thing. And I'm hoping, this year was a great example where the defense for Ole Miss was good and the offense was really good. If he can marry those two things at LSU, we've seen what that team can be when the defense is just average with a great offense. So I think he'll be able to do that. And I would assume that at least, maybe not in year number 1, but in year number 2 and year number 3, they are going to be college football playoff contenders.
What does your gut tell you about the future of Ole Miss football with Pete Golding now it's the head coach?
You are a silly goose if you are betting anything regarding Ole Miss in the college football playoff. That's not even meant to be disrespectful to Pete Golding, but this is an offense-first team, and a majority of that offensive staff is now not there anymore. They should be thanking Alabama for beating Auburn, because if they would have went in to the SEC championship game where you got to see what they looked like without Lane Kiffin, which I'm expecting to be not very good, they would not have made the college football playoff. They would have got FSU'd. So that's obviously not going to happen, but my expectations are not very high because I legitimately do not know if they have a competent play caller. Play calling is a tough thing. You know this, I know this. It's not just playing Madden, right? There's a lot that goes into it. They don't have a guy that can do it at a high level right now. It's going to be very, very difficult on the offense.
I'm curious to see what Charlie Weiss's future holds. He got on the plane, came with Lane Kiffin, was in Baton Rouge in the facility last night. There are now rumblings out of Oxford. There's optimism he will at least come back for the college football playoff, if not full-time as Pete Golding's offensive coordinator. So that's a big chip that is yet to be played, and I'm curious to see how that works out. What do you make of the entirety of the coaching carousel, especially in the SEC that we saw really mostly on Sunday?
It moved fast, man. It moved really, really fast. I don't know. I should have made a note about this in 2021 because I remember when the Lane Kiffin domino fell, and then Brian Kelly was after that, and then Billy Napier was after that. Like, I remember that felt fast, but maybe just because I happened to be on Twitter, but it felt like in 30 minutes, 6 jobs were filled, and I was like, it was pretty crazy. I think a lot of good coaches are going to get upgrades. I don't think that necessarily means that those programs are going to be better off. I know the JMU guy just left for UCLA. Honestly, it's easier to win at JMU than it is at UCLA. I think he's in for a little bit of a tough spot there. I kind of like Golish to Auburn because I do think Auburn, if you are, shall I say, smart and don't like to golf, you can win there. So I think he has all of the tools necessary, but it's not like he was this badass in the group of 5, for 6-7 years. He was good this year, good last year, but so there's still some questions there. But I do like that hiring, and then Summerall to Florida, I think is a good move as well. We'll just see if Florida has actually fixed the issues that have hindered them over the past few years.
Contention is kind of up in Fayetteville that they got the last of the scrap heap, given Silverfield to come from Memphis. Is that the way you feel about it?
Yeah, but what do they expect?
Yeah.
I mean, you thought you were going to beat out Florida or Auburn? I mean, come on, be realistic now. These SEC teams, some of them, not all of them, but some of them think that they're just a little bit of a bigger dog than they actually are. I think the guy they got's a good coach, but, come on now. You thought you were going to beat out Auburn?
So I'm curious what you think Penn State is now going to do.
That has been a multi-million-dollar question. My gut feeling tells me it's going to be Hartline, the offensive coordinator and mega recruiter at Ohio State. Really great offense, or really great wide receiver coach for a long time, and has kind of been the backbone of their recruiting. So he feels like the best option. I know there was maybe a little bit more to the Kalen DeBoer situation that it kind of made its way to the internet a few weeks ago, but I don't anticipate that he's going to leave Alabama for Penn State. That would be kind of silly. So it feels like Hartline is going to be the guy unless they can, I don't know, maybe take a big swing that nobody's thinking about. But at this point, I don't know who a big swing that nobody's thinking about would even be.
All right. I'm curious your thoughts as we transition back to LSU to close things out here. The thought in the line that everyone used about LSU for the last umpteen years, the last 3 coaches won a national championship. You saw Nick Saban win one, you saw Les Miles win one, you saw Ed Ogeron win one, and then Brian Kelly came in, and you're like, well, this guy has won everywhere, he's clearly going to win, and he didn't. And then Lane Kiffin won at FAU and won big at Ole Miss, and what if he doesn't? Would that be a stain on the LSU job if 2 guys that had been high performers elsewhere didn't win in Baton Rouge?
So it depends what would be the lead up to that. With Brian Kelly, I feel like he is a situation to where we now know more of what went on behind closed doors, which was that he was maybe more complacent than he was hungry. If Lane is trying his absolute damnedest and they just can't put it together, then that's going to be a stain. Now, if Lane Kiffin gets in his own way and it's just the demons of Lane Kiffin that have kind of followed him, demons is a tough word, but just for the sake of using some personification, if it's some of the things that have plagued him at other places that have reemerged and it's the immaturity that I kind of thought was done, if that is what cost him, then that's not a stain on LSU. That's just a guy. So I don't think if Lane Kiffin doesn't win a championship that LSU is a stunted job by any stretch of the imagination. I think as soon as that job opens, there's going to be another big coach that is going to be racing to sign the check.
We shall see. I talked about money in the last segment. LSU always seems to find it, and they certainly did. $91 million of it for Lane Kiffin, who will be introduced as the next head coach at LSU in 45 minutes. Denton, we appreciate the time. We'll talk again next week, and we're looking at a playoff.
Yep, Hunt, appreciate it.
Denton Day, SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. About national championships, maybe I'm too cautious. I get the questions about, is Jay Johnson going to pass Skip Bertman? I'm like, man, it's really hard to win these. It's really, really hard to win a national championship. And in football, I feel the same way. It's really hard to win one. It's not that hard for Nick Saban in his prime at Alabama to win one, but it's really hard to win one. And so I feel like the chalk is that, no, Jay Johnson's not going to pass Skip Bertman. The chalk is that Lane Kiffin's not going to win a national championship at LSU. I'm not saying he can't. It would not surprise me at all if he did. It's just a very hard thing to do. But I understand it's the standard. I'm curious. I might put that on as a Twitter poll. Like, will Lane Kiffin win a national championship at LSU? And I realize that most of the people that follow me on Twitter are big LSU fans, and that the overwhelming majority will say that he will. And it's not that I disagree with that, but it is very hard to win a national championship. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that at LSU because if you've been around for the last 20 years, like you've seen a good bit of them. But it's a tough thing to do. We'll see if he can get it done. That's clearly why he's coming. He's not coming here because of the money, I don't think. I think he's coming here because he thinks he can get better players and has a better chance to win a national championship. And it goes back to my comment last week about, maybe he's looking at this team and going, yeah, they're a playoff team. Yeah, we're 11-1, but can we beat Ohio State? And some were like, has nothing to do with it. I'm just curious. Maybe it does. Maybe he thinks they're good, gotten some breaks, won enough games, but we're not good enough to win the game. Maybe they didn't win at Georgia this year. Had a 9-point lead in the second half. We'll see. Lane Kiffin in front of the media in 45 minutes. We'll come back and close out the show next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust, newest sponsor here at the Hunt Palmer Show. And it's been great getting to know the folks over at First American Bank and Trust. That's what you're going to get when you do business with them. If you are looking for a commercial loan, I highly, highly recommend you go see the folks at First American Bank and Trust. They've got 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. You get 25 locations, you are a sizable operation, and they are. And they can handle whatever commercial loan you're looking for. But they also maintain that small town feel. They're here in St. John Parish. They're here in Lafourche Parish. They're here in Terrebonne Parish. They're over in Dutchtown and Hammond. They're up in St. Tammany Parish as well. It's a small town feel. You're going to work with local decision makers. You're going to get a local call center. You're not going through Atlanta. You're not trying to figure out the website and see if you can get somebody back. No, you're going to get someone who's right here in Southeast Louisiana. But you understand that you're working with a sizable operation that's been doing it here in Southeast Louisiana since 1910. That is 115 years. It's First American Bank and Trust. Looking for a commercial loan, reach out to them. First American Bank and Trust.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
We didn't have enough time to talk about the Saints, Jordan.
Hon, it's a lot of things we could be talking about. Like, we could talk about the weather,
Weather's not great. It's a little rainy, a little cold.
Yeah, we could talk about what we ate for Thanksgiving. It's a lot of more positive thoughts.
I had some good food for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Had some good food. Got
hopefully no casseroles.
Oh, there were casseroles. Broccoli cheese casserole was phenomenal. Broccoli cheese rice casserole was great. Sweet potato casserole was awesome.
Yeah.
Saints. I thought Chuck did some good things. Charlie Smith, that field goal would have been good from 70.
Yeah. Well, we had
that
Groupie.
was Groupie.
Missing in the dome.
That kick. I mean, there are rarely field goals that pique my interest. When you considered how far it was and then where it hit the net, I was like, my God. Yeah. Groupie was missing him from 38.
In the dome. In the dome. So
saw Kool-Aid made a couple plays. Caught a
Vele looked okay.
Vele looked good. I liked that. He's got some ability. He's got something the other receivers don't have. He's big.
Olave
Cam Jordan
still can't
climbing up the Olave needs to catch that ball at the end. That would have won the game, obviously.
Yeah,
But they lost as they do. And you know what? Losses are okay because you're now picking number 2 in the draft, which is okay.
That's what we need.
Take it or leave it?
Yeah, we got it. Let's go. Oh, my fault.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. Delicious, delicious flavor. Only 95 calories, 2.6 carbs. Looking for something refreshing, delicious. Light by Yingling. It's the next generation of light beer.
Okay, so we're going to start it off with Saturday. Ohio State beat Michigan 27-9, and at the end of the game, Ohio State players were having a party. They were in the crowd. They were doing all this on Michigan's field. Michigan refused to leave the field because they knew Ohio State was trying to plant the flag at the M in the middle of the field. But the coaches had to sit there and make everybody disperse and whatnot. But playing defense after the whistle, take it or leave it.
I'm okay with it. I mean, I think it's a little bit silly. I think it's a little bit silly. Hey, this is my personal opinion.
Yes.
This will be way in the minority. Way in the minority.
Not a fan of it?
I don't really care if an Alabama player takes a flag and jams it on the ground at the 50-yard line.
They're not going to like this one, Hunt.
I don't care. I care if we lose to Alabama.
Yes.
But, whether or not he takes a flag and does, you stomp on the eye, I don't care. Go do whatever you do. I don't care about that. So I'm okay if the Michigan players, it's something prideful to them that they want to stand there, and they're not seeking a confrontation. They're just diffusing one. I'm okay with that. I would think it was ridiculous if they went and fought, but I don't really care about this metaphorical stupid thing where you're jamming a flag onto the ground. I don't think you've claimed the stadium. You won the game.
Oh, they was ready to brawl. If Ohio State would have did it, they were definitely going to brawl. So, speaking of Ohio State, a massive receiver U battle happened yesterday between Ohio State's Jackson Smith and Jigba and LSU's Justin Jefferson. JSN, who leads the NFL in reception yards, finished the game with 2 catches for 23 yards, while the legendary Justin Jefferson finished with 2 catches for 4 yards.
Whoa.
All-time battle, take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. They got some work to do there. Got to get him the ball a little bit better. 2 catches for either one of those guys. It's just not a very efficient day. But yeah, that's not great. Smith and Jigba is quietly, I don't know how quietly it's been. He's been leading the NFL in receiving yards, but he's had a monster year, and he needs to be in the conversation with those guys at the top of the sport with the LSU guys. So he's been awesome.
And the reason why I even did this because this is a very critical part in the fantasy season, as
sure
you know,
is.
And I know that lost somebody to the matchup.
I have Zay Flowers on my team.
Hunt. Me too, brother. And I have Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I don't know what he did.
Zeros.
Zay Flowers literally got less points in his game over the weekend than Keller Palmer. Keller Palmer is 9 months old and cannot sit up very well.
Yeah.
And he had 0 this week, and Zay Flowers had -0.2.
Oh, yeah.
-0.2. Less than my infant.
Yeah.
Pitiful.
Amon-Ra St. Brown had 0, so that's why I said I had both of them as my starting
Keller.
receivers. So, yeah, it's real bad out here. So, apparently, Juice Kiffin, Lane Kiffin's dog account on Twitter, who he likes to troll on, get his jokes off.
He does.
Well, it's being reported that was never his dog from the beginning, and that Kiffin actually doesn't have a dog. Fake dog guy, take it or leave it?
I'm going to leave that. It got a lot of traction. Maybe it's a PR thing to make him a little bit more humanizing. Lane's going to have a hard time coming back from this. If he wins here, the people in Baton Rouge will love him, and maybe that's all that matters. But, his national reputation stinks right now, and that does not matter if it doesn't affect recruiting, it doesn't affect your ability to put together a staff, and wins cure everything. So if he wins games, it will be fine. But LSU is going to be the villain here with Lane Kiffin.
Without a doubt.
Because of how this has all gone down and the way the reporting has happened. It just is what it is. Now, that doesn't matter. I pulled for the villain when the whole time Will Wade was here. Guess what? They won a lot of games, and it was fun. It matters if you win or lose. But LSU, the PR deal for LSU for Lane Kiffin is not going to go well.
Oh, yeah, it's in the mud. And honestly, I'd rather be the villain with Lane Kiffin than the villain with Brian Kelly. I'd rather get the Lane Kiffin hate than the Brian Kelly hate. That was too much. That's it for take it or leave it.
That's it for take it or leave it. Busy show. Just about one topic today. There's a lot of Lane Kiffin talk. If you're looking for it, you can go catch it on demand at Hunt on LSU. You can also find our full shows archived wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. You can also find that on YouTube as well. Lane Kiffin meets with the media in 35 minutes. Matt Moscona is there in the South Stadium Club at Tiger Stadium. He will start his show coming up in 5 minutes, and then he will go to Lane Kiffin's words coming up at 3:30. We're reacting to all of it on tomorrow's edition of the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.